Board. Where to recap, I guess, as you do. So we have here, this is the board game from which originated the franchise of the Europe and Friends, Europe and Company, Europe featuring the rest of it. Began on a board in the early 90s, of which I was able to acquire a copy in far-off times. I've taken it upon myself to create some manner of clean, digital cyberboard, which then, I don't know, maybe play online with folks indirectly? But just distribute in general and have exist as a preserved instance of thing. Today's session accompanied by the soundtracks for Uncharted Waters, to be followed by Uncharted Waters 2. Appropriate. Anyway, let's get started. As next up on the list of things to do, fill the ocean. Go ahead and grab a color sample off of that, and yeah, there. Nailed it. Ocean accomplished. It's that easy. We're also, yeah, I left the terrain semi-transparent to look at the data underneath it. If I go ahead and... Well, actually, no, don't even have to crop out that segment. Let me lock down the ocean. And instead, above everything else, let's just create a title card. Lock. Then onto that, I can just sort of quickly smudge into place. It's reserved square. Sample of that orange. Yeah, perfect. And back down to some kind of reasonable size. And cleave quickly. have, I'll ask it, yeah, all my thoughts. Good. Bold italic, size 30 cloister. In a color other than the background box that I just created. Yeah, there we go. Bold that, make it yet larger. It'll probably do it. Slightly too much. Just barely, just by a hair. And then just down in some small times. Roman. Defaulted back to that background color. Good. Right here. This really should not be. Every other element of this is allegedly locked down. It's unclear why it would let me grab the background. Bring one letter. Noel. And I might take that box and apply some texturing and gradient to it. Ocean layer is revealing small gaps in the terrain. Touch-ups will be needed. Nice. Always things to do. go ahead and further add. Certainly, there is intent to continue to serve. All due credit. Europe and its related universe are property of their original creators. Please support the official release of Europe. What's the text code for copyright symbol? How do I alt that in there? Oh, 169. Nice. Allegedly. Yeah, there we go. I've only ever heard the SNES releases versions of all of these tracks. But for context, just the soundtrack, I think we're getting alongside here. Uncharted Waters is a background, please. Behave yourself. Uncharted Waters was, I suppose, initially released for home consoles out in... but also received console ports at around the time that this board game existed as well, so in that way it's also thematically appropriate. Uncharted Waters is what I refer to as essentially being the full genre unto itself of boat haver. It's probably called other things by other people, however, I deem its distinguishing feature having a boat. Kinda games of exploration and commerce, and usually some amount of poorly implemented violence you ignore in favor of exploration and commerce. Go to various places, buy and sell things. Use profits earned from said commerce to get more and bigger ships so you can go farther and find better places to trade more. And so Uncharted Waters is a game of boat having in Renaissance Europe, in which you, from various origins, well, in the first game, just the one origin point of you being a down-on-his-luck Portuguese nobleman. To the extent that an aristocrat can be down on their luck. You're down to your last boat and a couple of loyal comrades, and your family is not in terribly high standing. But you have a boat, so get out there and find riches and prosperity on the high seas. And so you do. It did well enough for itself to form a franchise, which carried forward for several main entries, and still to some degree alive today. There's an MMO that was made of it that exists. Still apparently has a player base, I guess. And then, so starting in the second of them and carrying on more so as the franchise went further, to my understanding. I only played 1 and 2 as those were the ones that had SNES releases. I might explore some further of those at some point as stream games worth getting a view into. But anyway, starting with those, they then open things up to having many different points of origin to run scenarios off of, and from those, different, like, plots to undergo, and different core things that you're nominally supposed to be focusing on. Still having space for all of your core activities in each of the campaigns. You go forth, and both have. Doing economy. And occasional violence, but mostly economy. And in particular, Uncharted Waters 2, for its time, had some fairly ambitious, like, sandbox and world-developing elements going on about its campaigns. Such that usually, by way of doing economy, you slowly took the entire world and brought it under the influence of your home empire. Let me turn the opacity back up on the ocean layer. Need to see any of the data that's under there for now. Do most with passive touch note. take nearly as long as the initial terrain crafting out did. Borderline's a bit thin. Fix that up while I'm down here. But yeah, so I'm fairly familiar with the NES renditions of most of these tracks. Whereas these are, I suppose, the PC versions? Themes of various exotic locales you could both have too. Said old PC versions also, alongside a bunch of other stuff, got themselves a re-release on Steam recently. No idea what quality those re-releases. There's a lot of them. Koei kind of snapped open the vault and made a big anniversary event out of releasing a whole lot of their old stuff. You can find Uncharted Waters, you can find all of the old Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Nobunaga's Ambitions. Like, all of them. All the way back. These are areas I covered later in the first pass, so they probably have more errors than the ones I started in. Some small errors I'm willing to just leave alone. I want to take care of the most egregious ones. Make sure all the data is present and functional. Still, at the time of this stream, my pinned image on my Twitter profile from Uncharted Waters 2. Discovery of mysterious stone orb. Which is a real thing. The Middle America. A large number of stone orbs in a variety of sizes, whose purpose is unknown, as their creators are dead. Mostly with these corrections, I'm looking for places where the ocean is sitting in through the terrain. Couple of pixels spilling over from one to the other, that's fine. Borders being fuzzy. That proceeds well. We have filled the ocean. Now the follow-up work of counterfilling everywhere ocean is not supposed to be. There, getting a little adventuresome. I think we're reaching some of the combat themes. I did roughly 0 fighting in Uncharted 1. Uncharted Water 1. Seems about right for your 8-bit theme of adventurous pirate combat. Weird instrument choices in these. Particularly weird with respect to other video game music, but because they're like choosing things that are, or trying to resemble things that are period appropriate. Tunes of old. Yeah, old, way old brass. And then at a couple of points in these soundtracks, there's chiptune harpsichords, which sound remarkably good. And the harpsichord is a woefully underused instrument elsewhere. Yeah, harpsichord, the missing link between piano and guitar. The ultimate weapon. The session likely to be dominated by pipe cleaning. Line maintenance. That was all the first one. The farther back in time you go, the less bulk uptime there is as an OST. Reliance on overuse and looping. On to the sequel. These are not Europa soundtracks. Again, this is Uncharted Waters. So I guess also for this... Yeah, I guess maybe they got a full, album I doubt this is the rendition of these songs that wound up even in regular release. Although this is 1994 now, maybe it was on a CD, who knows? Could have been that ambitious. We're getting some kind of after-the-fact concert album with this, then. Good stuff. So this is like the main sailing around theme from Uncharted Waters 2. I'm used to hearing it with more like Sinnes meaty trumpet honking. Instead, enjoy this. Enjoy ocean sound. Going to. also means each of these tracks is going to get some good, healthy time to loiter instead of just being like a loop off the sound files. This is, I think, either one of the town themes or one of the shop themes. Well, I suppose I could just quickly tab over and check. They're labeled. These are labeled by song titles rather than where they are used. Right, and some of these are also like character themes. For the 6 potential mains. I'd probably have to hear a lot of these like, side by side with their chiptune versions, and end up still not convinced that they're the same song. Really looking forward to what this album is going to do. Like, the battle themes. They're already putting this much into just Alan? Could be one of several town themes, since there's like regional tunes. Go all throughout the world, conducting your boat having. Remind from anyone working here, I am arriving here new, working from, take away these layers here, scan of original map, which in its original form was probably MS Painted, or even like pre-MS Paint. Paint 3.0. Step beyond Paint. Uncharted Waters 2 just had the one general sailing song for being at sea. Whatever you're there for, the ocean's the same. When I touched this up the first time through, I may have had something wrong with the layering. Prevented some actions from committing. I'll leave that one blue dot there. There, that's an oasis. That one isn't. You go away. Were touch-ups needed in Italy? This is menu theme. The opening. Good note how they have a relatively short loop to work with. The source material for this track doesn't play long. Only so much liberty to take. Let's go south first since we're in France. Clean Iberia, and then all of our remaining concerns will be. I end up pretty quiet during this session since I got and found myself this pile of mostly pleasant acoustic guitar. Like the plurality of Uncharted Waters characters. Maybe a full majority? That's a solid half of Uncharted Waters characters. All right, now, yeah, it's 4 out of 6 are from Mediterranean or adjacent characters. Portuguese, Spanish, Genoan, Turkish, British, and Dutch. That's going to result in a very strong sampling bias towards chill guitars and guitar-adjacent instruments. Guitar family. This is the bar theme, though, do you believe? Recognition also made more complex by the fact that, like, when you're just playing through the game, you probably don't stand in a bar for this long at a time for any particular reason. Whatever you're there for, you're probably very quickly in and out. As far as mechanics. It's like, I don't know, maybe this is the rest of the pub theme? Who knows? There we go, this is Middle East city theme, recognizing the melodies. In some cases, the SNES versions had very different instrumentation. Out of, I guess, like a reasonable sense of not being sure which SNES MIDI voice would sound appropriately. Like, what is this, an oud? Providing, like, the string bass line here? I don't know the names of most Middle Eastern instruments, but I kind of vaguely recognize them by sound. Yeah, that riff there, that's... You'll hear that a lot when you're doing business in Egypt or North Africa. Or like the entirety of the early game for the Turkish merchant character. Yeah, Mediterranean, very important in your Renaissance trading game. So, a lot of chill string instruments. Like, I think a lot of what they're doing with strings here in the SNES version is instead covered by, like, kind of a xylophone? Almost? Make it percussion instead of string-like. Just have been wondering, did the SNES sound fonts have a lot of string-likes? Maybe that was just a deficiency of the library. These SNES games had a good fiddle in them. And yeah, this is another one of the city themes. This is what's sitting in your ear while you haggle over the price of yet another shipment of carpet. Every month, the same song and dance where this asshole tries to convince you that he cannot take less than 240 dinar. Or ducat, or whatever the supposed vague gold currency universal across all lands is. spot on the ocean. Whole general region got itself a bit less. Fully treated, there we go.
So near, there's none to fear. Without playing for sharing all in you. Sentiment, me my money and take us to fairyland.
English lyrics.
There is here, like things up there, do a singing and ringing the blues string. Compliment, open to one and make our fantasy under orderly. Our empty eyes, the kind that comes from little sensory, romantic complicity. Build the Tower of Nova, the open charm above. Hold, people won't, if one is told. Make the greeting conciting, I'll never reminisce who you say to and take you to embassy. Come, be calm, without custom. No one lighting and hiding the red string. Permanent, lead on to fun and make our fantasy under orderly. Our empty eyes, the kind that comes from little sensory, romantic complicity. Build the Tower of Nova, the open charm above, the open charm above. La 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 la. Rearrange and see, to know that none can be. If we can roam around our feelings, be it delightful to share, to love, to sing. There's answers, won't you pick? Excavating oceans through them eyes and see the world of make-believe.
Yes, this is still Uncharted Waters 2 soundtrack. Seems we've hit a block of various port themes. Let's zoom back in. Things looking nice and clean. Egregious artifacts. Oh, Europe. I just have to step away for a brief moment and then we can start doing a little bit of pre-work on stuff for the data layer. We go in there and grab some sizes for icons. Continue to enjoy Waters. There. Important logistical efforts completed. I have reheated my coffee. Yeah, this is another town theme. I think this is North Europe, mostly? It's a little vague because a lot of these themes are then also reused for other regions outside of the one they were probably composed to represent. Tech limitations. Let me turn off some of the efforts here so I can dive in there and take a look at information. A couple of sizes of icon that need to be made. Calls about how large mostly 3 sizes. Trade center icons, which are, plenty big. Circular ones fit inside the square ones, roughly. Or like, are a circle you could fit the square inside, the opposite of the thing I said. Either way, similar dimensions that work out off a common standard. Weather markers. Big icons. The dots, crosses, and anchors. Plus also, while we're down here, the gold bar nestled in there. There are more of those on the rest of the world map than there are on the... Alright, so decision must be made regarding how big make a nice sharp and clean version of this trade center bubble. That box that you're looking at. That right there is a 72 pixel square. About right for where the footprint of this thing is. Brandish that number next to some of the other ones. There's fight theme. That's your 70 square. Whereas the smaller square itself is more like a 60. So let me switch down from the hyper-saturated version to the plain one. .64 by 62. So I'd make like a 64 pixel square. That should do fine for both grade zone markers. Really, the circle part of this is just to additionally further indicate that this is an Empire's home zone rather than one of the neutral ones, which is, also labeled in text and by color. Yeah, we're getting kind of a 24-hour Weather Channel vibe out of this rendition of the battle theme. Which is not far off how the actual battle theme feels. It's pretty relaxed. For, you know, cutthroat pirate dueling. Scribble down on some immediately available paper. Sprite icon. Let's go for a 64 by 64. Pixel budget for that. A fine looking icon can be fit into there, just like you have. I'm gonna preserve the fundamentals of what this is. Boat silhouette, number. Smooth backing. Next up, weather. All the clouds are the same size. On this scan, that's a 52 by 38. Still at 50 by 40. Clean various numbers to either 10s or 2s. The white and black clouds, that's as a flavor thing, the more severe levels of weather hazard are drawn more menacingly. 4s, and there's a 3 somewhere, maybe? 4 might be the lowest threat level that exists. The mechanics, but yeah, these are just drawn as pleasant, white, fluffy cloud. 5 starts to get a bit darker, and then out on the open sea, you'll start to... Right, not in the... Alright, yeah, out here, there's a 6 up in the North Sea, and that's more menacing. And way out there on the rest of the world map, in the most perilous of seas, there's like 7s, 8s, 9s. Those are drawn to invoke primal terror of weather. To the extent that these small pixel cloud blobs do so. I could maybe even, while taking liberties with the material, go as far as like having the extreme weather out there in the ocean drawn as like little cyclones. Little top-down, you know, hurricane eye formations. Oh, that gold bar. 4 by 9. The current visual. I'll call that a 24 by 10. You know, it's an ingot. The trapezoid. Harpsichords, yes. This is... I think this is the Royal Audience tune? I think that's the only place that we go full harpsichord in Uncharted Waters 2. Anytime you seek Royal Audience with any of the various Imperial nobles. When it's time to rank up and get charters. A little 10 pixel dot. About you though, little fortress star. 14 by 15, so I'll give myself a 16 pixel square for city icons. work out, just be sure it's anchor over here. Yeah, it fits comfortably. It's a 15 by 13. That's with stretching a ways inland past the anchor. So that works out. Further, while I'm taking measurements, how large these texture marks for the terrain are. We'll sample mountain friends and our blobs of trees and our swamp plants. Or is this the pub theme? This is some kind of business you frequent. A fair deal. It's 38 by 14. Call that a 40 by 16 for a mountain. That can probably work out as a universal standard, but just find a representative terrain icon that fits in a square of about that size. Put it on there. Maybe something larger? Because you can see repeating patterns in like the larger forest areas here. You definitely had some kind of wallpaper and cut off to shape this tree to this tree, this and then this cluster to that. How large is the forest texture? $59 by 43. Brandish that around a couple more instances just to be sure it's accurate. Yeah. Similarly, yeah, down here more so on the very large continuous mountains, you can see that these are on a steady grid as well. Of also about that size. It's about the size of a like terrain sprite that Phil was using. $64 by 40. We know what kind of what aspect ratio? That's a 1.6. Okay, yeah, that's ratio. That's clean numbers for visual proportion things. Isn't it? What are common aspect ratios? Yeah, 1 to 6 is common computer screen ratio. 1 to 6. 180 is the golden ratio. Alright, so we're near perfect. We are in fact near the god number. This is the correct proportion for terrain. Good. Nature's tile set. That's a bit thinner than the 16 to 9. Noticeably wider than 4 to 3. Man, we're almost done that album. Doesn't look like there's an upload for Waters 3. What a nice find, though. Go ahead and jump tracks. Similar, but different. Songs from Europa. Those measurements taken. Back up and take a good look at that, Europe. Get started on something new, something. Take our 64 by 40. Maybe, you know what, double up the size of the base that we're going to use for that. And then it can be, you know, scaled down and any finer detail that existed there, you know, appropriately crushed and normalized. Capture. Yeah, there we are. So here we are on our new layer. Our new canvas. At nearly divine proportion. The nature numbers. Onto this. Let us maybe draw a hill? A small tree? Something or other. And I suppose as well, just underneath this, let me throw down a backing layer that we will give an appropriate color. Supposing we're starting with mountain. There's our mountain color from the map. Brush size back to normal. Looking to draw just like a small hill, a couple of hills, a cluster. Mountains. For these, we're looking to get vague, natural. Truly, how does one mountain? Star mountains. Despite all our science, have we ever truly succeeded in explaining mountain? How does one reasonably compose a good, repeatable looking block? Pointy rocks. How does one describe the anatomy of mountain? Perhaps if each mountain is in front of each subsequent. Starting to look like something. Puts forward further composition and design questions for this. Wants to end up being a texture on board. Too busy, it'll make any information written on top of it harder to see. How much empty space do I want between mountains to facilitate that? Or do I want to endeavor to create a mountain texture that is itself smooth enough to serve as a steady background tiling? I'm gonna think I can achieve a bit of a nice mountain weave. This one left a bit. I proportion it out to be like 4 mountain in front row, 4 mountain in back row, alternating. background mountains at center, edge, and border marks. That one would then ideally. There. Background mountain here-ish. Foreground mountains go between said background mountains. Clear out this region. But if I then took portions that I'm settling out here and how do I then further make them feel natural, going vertically as well? Add a second layer per block? Do I do something more? Further thought, what if I then, like, also offset these vertically and create kind of a diagonal mountain texture instead? Set these out in some manner of grid. Create an appropriate skeleton of mountain. Create top layer here where I will just go ahead and throw down some numeric grid lines. There's the center. And the other center. And those quarterways marks. As for the vertical. Layer-wise, keep those on top and just make them like half transparent. Quarter? Quarter, yeah, that's about right. That creates a sense of guidelines. There's the grid. Where also now, with this in mind, it might be worthwhile to try to consider like overlapping thirds, pseudo-thirds. Have the central block contain primary mountain. Like 5 mountains in the middle and the quadrants. I have so far here, and just look, no, not that. That alone. Grab the actual layer I'm on that I'm pointing at. That one. Starting from this. Then instead, this piece. Okay, this doesn't extend the boundaries of what that layer is considered. That back. Just let me also. Sweep things clean. New plan. Mountains here. Mountains there. Furthermore, there. Or so, and then by flexibly weaving all of these together, we'll create our mountain grid. That will then repeat as far as necessary for mountain. And we could further have a bunch of like small, irregular contours woven into the middle of this primary set of shapes. Like, at this level of separation, each mountain is now standing on its own. Eventually, not needing to interfere with any of the others in this level. Like a bit of a baseline, of a prototype. Go ahead and sculpt 8 individual mountains. Exist comfortably on their lonesome. A little bit of trailing garbage over here that might vaguely correspond to that. It would stand out pretty quickly if this edge, where it cuts cleanly there, that were especially obvious. As we've now also run out of Arabis. 30 up these edges a bit. Go ahead and throw on Secret of Mana. Secrets of Mountains. And like, ideally I still haven't looked into what possibilities exist for smartly defining textures within the program here. Eventually, best case scenario, I'll be able to make a direct reference to another file, then have whatever further edits occur to this pass themselves along automatically. That would be just downright remarkable. Right at this moment, though, here's 8 small mountains. Some cut in half by space and time. Kind of an interesting exercise for visual processing of information. Like the whole trick of, alright, the thing you think you know how to draw, do it upside down. What happens then? Draw it while cut in half. How much of your shape recognition survives that? How do you perceive it differently when you're just looking at left mountain? Alright, so with those little basic prototype hills thrown down, let me briefly over back onto the other file. I'm not going to bother redirecting the capture or anything. This moment, since I'm just looking to go over there and grab a copy of the old mountain shape iteration side by side. It is still seeing my cursor in the same position, but I'm on a different layer. Pay no attention. See if I can paste that over into a new layer. There it is. All right. See also that old individual mountain, much smaller. So I suppose scaling factors. Got to picture this as being twice as big as it was. Technology, I can just do that. Alright, so there's basic Euro mountain scaled up to double size for comparison here. And so yeah, like Phil's original texture was one of these and then 3/4 of the block as empty space. Like that. Individual peaks are a bit smaller than what I've sketched out here. By a smidge, but not by terribly much. We're already in a similar ballpark for level of visual information. Consider skimming each of these down in size. Since the thought of like depicting a nice dense continuous mountain range does exist in conflict with making sure that I can put readable text on top of this down the line. Fill each mountain back in a bit. flexible gray void between them. Also, for the edge mountains, remove the need to make their straddle the edge of the tile as much. Smaller mountain. Smaller mountain with slightly rounded footprint. Lowered opacity on the text. Also some nice effects for visibility. Make them more gray, more suggestion. A hint of mountain. Need to fret too much. Factors of this though. Both firm recognition that I'm extremely amateur drawing related. That looking rough and amateur and sketched is, in fact, a design goal. It's a feature. Sake of authenticity, we limit ourselves to only technologies that would have been available in Phil's garage 25 years ago. Or appropriate simulacra thereof. And I'm using a tablet for this is already cheating. Bring our sample mountain back out for comparison. Trying to get some handsome mountain shapes. Okay. Leave the grid where it is. Yeah, these will just be in need of further shading, and then, you know, light highlights around the peaks for snow. It'll probably be surfaceable mountain texture. Get that saved off to the side. And this has actually managed to add up to enough time to be fine use of an afternoon. Hero map is complete, and one texture is drafted. Free up appreciably more time to be devoted to... yeah, just flip back over. Plotting out the rest of these textures and icons, and then starting to organize them. On this, a Europe.